pressuring your child in school to do really well. And honestly, having a supportive family and a supportive environment around you and having an open communication is the only way to move forward. Like doing physical activity or getting adequate sleep and having a balanced diet is also important.
What are the symptoms or signs of worry do kids show generally?
Is having those conversations on the dinner table. Opening up about yourself will change the way they speak to you. Is asking questions, then they tell them how they're feeling, or the kids tell them how they're feeling, and then they pass judgment. Honestly, having open communication is key.
Mental health is a state of well-being that enables people to cope with stressful conditions, realize their abilities, learn well, and work well, and contribute into their family as well. But when we talk about children, we become extra careful, extra concerned about it. And today we are going to have a discussion on mental health impacts on kids. For that, we have with us Shreya Patel, who is a model turned actress, filmmaker, mental health activist, and she's also a founder of Window Dream Productions and all of these things. And in 2018 to present, she appeared in an award-winning mental health campaign which is called Bell Let's Talk. And rest, let's hear it from Shreya herself. Hi Shreya, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Sure. Shreya, we have heard so many definitions of mental health, this and that, and I've also given a bookish definition. But you tell me, what is mental health and what can we do to support it?
I think mental health is basically like an overall well-being of one's mind that could include psychological, emotional, and social aspects. And to support it, everyone has different approaches on how they want to deal with it. But when it comes to children, it's crucial that we form a supportive environment for them. And if it gets too hard for parents to deal with it, I think it's important that we seek counselors or therapists who have specialization in child psychology. And of course, open communication in the household and being actively listening to the kids and being patient with them is the best way to move forward.
Right, right. But since it can be difficult for people, different people to find things to cope with it, different people have different approaches, but we should appreciate all the range of approaches. But you tell me, how can we help the children develop mental health at the same time?
I think building resilience in children is honestly, it's all about supportive environment. I think a lot of parents think that, it's just in your head when the kid is like, I feel depressed or I'm not well today, or all of those simple things that happen to every single one of us because mental health really affects us all. So I think encouraging the kids to express their feelings and validating their experiences and teaching them problem solving skills is going to promote a healthier lifestyle and a way for them to open about their mental health before it gets too late. Also, talking to kids about doing physical activity or getting adequate sleep and having a balanced diet is also important because that would basically boost up their self-esteem and also provide opportunities to how to navigate challenges, and those can build coping mechanisms as well.
Right, right, absolutely. And dealing with these things and then finding an answer to all of these questions is a task itself. And
Yeah.
that might also show some signs and symptoms, but we might not be able to recognize these signs and symptoms. So you tell me, what are the symptoms or, signs of worry do kids show generally who are dealing with, stressful conditions and anxiety? And what can we do to support these children?
I honestly believe as children they also go through a lot of mental health changes because their body's changing, the school environments are different, the way they are raised is very different. When you start seeing changes in behaviors or mood swings, withdrawals, when they become introverted, they're locking themselves in the room or they're staying out too much and don't want to talk to you, all of those show signs of concern. And honestly, having a supportive family and a supportive environment around you and having an open communication is the only way to move forward. I think a lot of parents resist talking about mental health because they themselves are not open about it. And the only way you're going to be open
Yes.
about it is bringing those conversation up yourself, opening up about yourself first. So if I was sitting on a dinner table and if I had kids around me, I would be like, today, I was feeling really great. How are you feeling today? Those things kind of changed a lot of things. Or even if you say, today, you know what, I'm not feeling that great. Just I am feeling statements will grow with the over time with emotional intelligence with these kids. So even also like teaching them like relaxation techniques and like deep breathing and being mindful also helps. And if you're not that open with your kids, it, at least help them like express through like drawings and writings. And even now these days there are storybooks for young kids that talk about themes of mental health. Those are really
Yeah.
great as well. And also like encouraging like journaling as well helps. But the number one thing honestly is having those conversations on the dinner table and opening up about yourself will change the way they speak to you in the future as well. Because if you don't speak about it right now, you don't want in the future where these kids take a very drastic step and they're not in your life anymore. You rather take those steps now and create that safe environment for them to open up.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And these signs are very basic signs. And these steps
Mhm.
are just initial small steps that each and every family can do on their own, right? But and by your answer, I think people will definitely do these things because when things come from a different personality, from a different, known face, they
Yeah,
do take them seriously. But when a kid speaks to them, it doesn't matter to them that much.
so
And
true.
yeah. Also, since you have mentioned the symptoms, are there any risk factors?
I think the
You
risk
know,
factors, honestly, to be, it's all sometimes genetics. It's also like family environment, traumatic experiences. There's also like chronic health conditions that can cause mental health issues. Also, honestly, there's also things about like pressuring your child in school to do really well. I think that a lot of parents in India and also abroad, I think every Asian parent is like this, that they want their kids to do really well, which is great. Like push your child to do be the best in school, but not everything is marks. The most amount of people that are successful in their life, some of the CEOs, they're dropouts. And we need to encourage them, even if they fail, that it is okay. Because I feel like a lot of kids these days, and I might be wrong, but from what I have seen, because of not having the best mark in class or being the number one in sports or something, they take very drastic steps because of the pressure
yeah,
that they feel from home. We don't need to do all that. Failure is part of life, and you learn from failures. If you encourage them to have an open communication and give them a safe environment to open up, all of these risk factors will decrease significantly because they're able to talk to you about their failures and come out of it in a positive way versus not talking to you and taking some drastic steps that we don't want them to take.
right, absolutely. And I think that was a very thoughtful response to the question. Having just a talk, having a conversation, a tidbit of talk will also help a lot. Also, you have done so many campaigns. If we talk about Bell
Mhm.
Let's Talk and each and every these campaigns, talking about mental health issues and everything for that matter. So you have had a word with them. You comforted them. You have learned so much from them as well. You tell me, how can we have this age appropriate conversation with kids? Because if we talk about, people with of our age, it's very easy to talk with them and having a word with them and getting to know them. But when it comes to children, how to have this age appropriate conversation?
I think honestly, it depends on what age the child is in. We have to start early because you don't want to have mental health conversations. I think our generation, what you mentioned is true. The way we are speaking about it is very different than our parents used to speak about this at their age. So having these conversations
Absolutely.
very early, yeah, in life is very important. Tailoring those conversations, having open-ended questions and listening without judgment. I think what a lot of parents end up doing is asking questions, then they tell them how they're feeling, or the kids tell them how they're feeling, and then they pass judgment. तूने ये क्यों किया? Why did you do this? How did you do this? Here's an advice. No, I think advice is also important, but don't do it as a judgment. Do it because you care. And I think the tone also matters for that. And also when they're really young, like I mentioned, like storybooks and stuff, a lot of themes these days are surrounding like important topics, and one of them is mental health. So having those books at home when they're very young, you see that every day, and you make that like part of your life and everyday conversation. And also like talking about your emotions, because a lot of parents just generally are not comfortable talking about their emotions within themselves, that it is difficult for the kids to mimic that. So for your kids to be open about it, I think you yourself have to change, and you yourself have to start talking about your emotions, and your kids just noticing that, because kids are like sponges. They will do exactly what you do, and I think that it starts from you, and then the kids will learn from you.
Right, absolutely. And these kinds of things might also happen, due to lifestyle. So you tell me, do lifestyle pattern and everything, the food that we eat, the exercise that we do, the things that we watch on television, Instagram, social media, have an impact on child's mental health in any way?
Oh my god, Absolutely, like hugely. When you talk about social media, I think there needs to be a not a ban, but I think it needs to be limited because especially for kids who don't know that social media is just a highlight of your best life and it's not actually real life. So that needs to be monitored for sure. But yes, healthy, balanced diet is important. Regular exercise is important because that releases endorphins and it's good for your mental health and it's good for your mind and it's good for your brain health as well. And significant sleep. I don't think that people understand how getting enough sleep is like super important, and nutrition as well. Vitamins like omegas and all of those things, it's important that you take those every day because that also reduces your mental health, mental illness that you might have. And of course, if you have like severe mental illness, it is important that we seek help because when you get hurt, when you fall down, you go to the hospital, it's okay. So if you're not feeling too well, you go to the clinic, you go get a therapist. And it's become a regular thing in my friend circle, but I think a lot of people need to learn that that's okay and we need to break down that stigma.
Absolutely. Breaking the monotony is a must because if we will make a little change, it will be helpful to the future generations as well. Now,
Yep.
can you tell us some steps to prevent this and to promote mental health? Already you have mentioned it, but some more detailed preventions.
I think honestly, for prevention, I wholeheartedly believe it also starts from schools. I have been trying to
Yeah.
talk to like few of the schools to like bring these conversations in schools because we learn about maths, we learn about geography, history, all of these things. Why don't we talk about healthy lifestyle and emotional intelligence and how to have better communication skills and how to learn coping skills and all of this thing, educate the kids about like what it is to have emotional intelligence. Like I think that starts also from schools and not just from homes. But I know a lot of
Yeah.
people don't talk about it in schools. I think if that can change on a government to like a private school level and bring them and talk about like reducing stigma, it would be a huge prevention cause because it's not just a home that it's not just a parent's job. It's I think a community of people raise a child. It's a village that raises a child. So the village needs to be aware and the village needs to educate themselves about mental health and then bring that on to the child so they can like adopt to what these adults are so to say saying to them, right?
Right, right, absolutely. I think most people will be inspired by your thought. And coming to my last question, since you mentioned the role of a parent, tell me what a parent can do if they see any signs of mental health issues in their children.
Honestly, having open communication is key. It's I think a lot of parents don't are not aware about their own mental health. I think it starts from us generally that we recognize when we are feeling anything. Mental health is not just about being sad or being happy. You have all types of emotion that creates mental health. Like for instance, today my mental health is great. Tomorrow it might not be. That could create mental illnesses in the future. Why do that? I think it's important to create like a safe space for your child and for your family and for your partner or your parents, everyone to talk about this. And the best place to talk about it and not make it seem like it's too heavy is the dinner table. Because a lot of families do sit together, have food and all these things. We sit together, we have that conversation. How was school? Okay, cool. But like, how are you feeling today? Let me start by myself. I'm not feeling that great today. You tell me how you're feeling. And because you're opening up, they will end up opening up too because sharing, I have realized, is the biggest healing tool. Suddenly you realize you're not alone because everyone else is going through the same thing as you and maybe not at the same time, but they've dealt with it before. And if you're feeling too much and if you're feeling like the child is going through too much, then you yourself or the child can seek professional help, especially with the kids who have like, specifications in child psychology. Because only a positive and supportive environment can help your child build that emotional intelligence where they are able to cope and tell you about their mental health.
Right, absolutely. I think, Shreya, I think through this conversation, we have given a little bit of change to the, society. If someone is watching this
Absolutely.
podcast, they will know the importance of having a conversation. Since you've mentioned it so many times, I think people will get it that having just a conversation will help their children to cope up with things that they might not mention generally.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you taking out your time, answering all of our questions, and thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you for having me. I think this topic is really close to my heart. I've been speaking out about it as a South Asian person for a very long time in Canada and in India. And so thank you for letting me come on the show and talk about this important topic that is really prevalent in this time right now.
We appreciate your presence.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's it from me, guys. For more such informative videos, subscribe to our channel, Millennium Times.
Thank you.